Look, I'm gonna tell y'all. I knew that obviously I knew that the show was gonna come to an end way before they announced it. We had a talk about it. The studio and I and 50 and I. But I really just like, pulled a page out of 50's book, kind of like just trolling everybody.
Now, what if I told you that Power Book 2 Ghost may be coming to an end, but it could also be the beginning of a new chapter for Tariq St. Patrick's character? We're all wondering what's the plan after Power Book 2 Ghost? Who survived Season 4? Will any of the Tejadas make it? Will Braden? Will Effie? And most importantly, will Tariq St. Patrick? In a recent interview, Michael Rainey Jr. did spill the beans that he did actually know it was going to be the last and final season for Ghost. Whether he knew before they finished filming, that's a different question entirely, and we are going to get into that. So in this video, I will be breaking down some of the clues that we've had over the years that might hint at what could potentially be coming next after Power Book 2 Ghost, and there is a lot of information I'm going to be running through, so stick with me till the end. We're going to be looking at clues, evidence, quotes, facts and findings, and then I'm going to round off with my own thoughts and theories on why I personally believe we might be entering a new chapter and a new era for Tariq St. Patrick's story arc after they're done with Power Book 2 Ghost Season 4. Now I do just want to kind of run through the timeline of events and a brief overview of what's happened over the last few months, just as a very quick refresher and to bring everybody up to speed, or for those who aren't in the loop. On March the 11th, Deadline released an article around how Gary Lennon signed a new deal with Lionsgate, where he would effectively help develop and expand the Power universe, and that's something I want you guys to keep in the back of your minds. It is going to be a very important factor for what comes later on in this breakdown. But a day later, on March the 12th, there was an interview released by Jeffrey Hirsch, who is the CEO of Starz. He basically gave us a hint at what was to come. Because of costs with shows getting more expensive after the season 3 or 4 mark, sometimes it's more beneficial to end the show and spin it off rather than continue. Then on March the 14th, we got a teaser for Ghost, where we were given the news that it was going to be the last and final season, which was a surprise to us as the audience, as well as the cast and crew. Across social media there were posts to suggest that none of the cast and crew knew that this was going to be the end. Michael Rainey Jr. released this statement. 50 Cent then put a post on IG and said it was because he never picks up his phone, that's why he never knew. Gianni later did an interview with TMZ and broke his silence. Meanwhile, us as the audience, we were kind of just sitting back watching everything unfold, and I actually took to X and I said, something doesn't add up. And in one of my breakdowns, which I titled, What's the Truth?, I spoke about how we just needed to be patient because news will come out. Especially because I did feel there might have actually been a marketing spin to what we were seeing and hearing. The term I used was method to the madness, because if any of you guys have studied 50 Cent, he is a marketing genius. He knows how to create chaos and get people talking about his shows on social media, because that's what drives the numbers. And in my own personal opinion, I also don't think they'd cancel Ghost without having something else in the pipeline, which I don't believe is Power Origins. I do think Power Origins will be the natural successor to Raising Kanan, but I honestly don't believe they'll be cancelling Ghost without having something else in the works, which is where Gary Lennon might come in terms of developing the world after Power Book 2 Ghost. But that brings everybody up to speed, and it also brings us nicely onto the latest news. On April 24th, so Tuesday just gone, Michael Rainey Jr. posted something very interesting on his Instagram story, which I reposted on my X account, which I'm pretty active on pretty much almost every day. And I said, Michael Rainey Jr.'s in the office, is something cooking? And I do think something could very well be cooking in the background. Power Book 2 Ghost cancellation was a huge surprise to a lot of people. It was a surprise to us as the audience, but I did say at the time, keep an open mind. Sometimes there is a method to the madness. You don't think with them announcing that this is the final season of Book 2 Ghost, the numbers aren't going to skyrocket? Of course they will. But why was Michael Rainey Jr. in the office? I don't think it'd be marketing kind of Ghost doing kind of pictures or posters, because I'm sure that would have been done while they were filming Ghost. I'm expecting the trailer to drop anytime this week, so I'm sure everything is ready in terms of posters, images, teasers and trailers. But I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if Michael Rainey Jr. was sitting around the table, negotiating and talking about what comes after Power Book 2 Ghost. You know, what's next for his character Tariq? And I'm also going to back this up with something Courtney Kemp said a few years ago, and also something Michael Rainey Jr. recently said in an interview. A couple of days ago, Michael Rainey Jr. did an interview with Forbes, and he was asked about him being blindsided about Ghost cancellation, but he said he was just pulling a page out of 50's book, because he knew the show was going to come to an end way before they announced it. He said him, the network, and 50 had a talk about it, but all he was doing was pulling a page out of 50's book, trolling everybody because why not stir the pot? And it is something I have said before, chaos, drama, all this shit that we see on social media, we only see what they want us to see, and it only increases numbers. So straight out of 50's playbook, Michael Rainey did say he did know. Now, whether he knew at the time of filming or whether it was kind of before it was announced, that's a different question entirely. Because if he knew while they were filming, then you would have to assume they filled an appropriate ending. And I am going to come to my thoughts and theories in just a moment after we're done with the quotes. So up next, a reminder of what Courtney Kemp said post season 1's finale, all the way back in January 2021, which some of you may actually remember. Somewhere in Tariq's future, there will be a woman in his life who demands that he makes a choice between the boardroom and the street. And that choice and that woman, that's going to become a very difficult dilemma for Tariq as he goes forward. The quote that I just gave you is for the series for Ghost, it's not for next season. I think in my mind, I have 5 or 6 seasons. The big shift that would happen in season 5, the big shift that I'm planning for season 5, would take the show in a different direction, where frankly it could go on forever. The show could go on for 10 seasons or more considering that shift, and it is a big shift. But if that, yeah, we could go forward for sure and do some fun stuff. But that depends on whether we kind of make it there. One thing that I will mention is that we decided to take Ghost into politics, because politics is a great place for liars. There are also other careers that are a great place for liars. That may actually be a really nice way to kind of bring Tariq into the real world. So the keyword going forward is real world, just hold on to that thought. Now unfortunately we know that they won't be making it to season 5 or 6, but it doesn't mean that they can't continue what they originally planned in a new show under a new name. They planned a big shift after season 5. So could this shift actually be brought forward to the end of season 4? Tariq's dorm room had class of 2024, and therefore it does make sense that this is the closure of this particular chapter of his life. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the end for Tariq's story, but it could just signify the end of this particular chapter with him at college. You know, him balancing his studies, working with the Tejadas, having to defend his name, his family, reputation, and his life. It might be time to end this chapter of him being at college come the end of season 4 and enter the real world and put himself up against the elite. It doesn't necessarily mean he has to run Club Truth, because I can see him becoming a very successful businessman in whatever he does, because he does have the brains. He's got a very entrepreneurial mindset because he sees things that the average person doesn't, and like Monet said, he's a thinker. Davis McLean also teased that he'd make a decent lawyer.
You know what, kid? You might make a decent lawyer someday.
You know there's no such thing as a decent lawyer.
So that last part of what CK mentioned, how they decided to take Ghost into politics, because politics is a great place for liars, but also how there are other great careers for liars. I do think it's a hint for what that big shift might have been. It might have been taking Tariq into law, business, politics, who knows. But it is a big shift that they can still do post season 4, because I don't think Tariq's story will necessarily be over. I personally don't think they're going to kill Tariq off at the end of season 4. I do think his story is going to continue. You know, one of the taglines for Power, which I kind of refer back to time and time again, is Power Never Ends. And what haven't we seen from Tariq is running a legit business of his own, or him having to handle the corporate world. We got a very small glimpse of it in season 3, when he came on as an intern at Western Holdings, and how he managed to build a business relationship with RSJ, how he was able to bring in investment opportunities, but also how he got screwed over. But they haven't really tapped into what Tariq's fully capable of in the real world. We know what he's capable of in the street game, how he can build a sophisticated drug organization by having different people with different skills in different places. But how does Tariq really handle relationships in the real world of business with the elite? How does he fare building and running his own legit empire? Because this is what made James St. Patrick great. He was constantly adapting and evolving, because he saw a life beyond Queens.
See, people take you at face value, Simon. Me, well, I have to transform to meet everyone's expectations constantly. Truth isn't one thing because I'm not one thing.
So we all know what James St. Patrick could do, but how does Tariq adapt post-college life? How does he evolve, build business relationships in the corporate world? Everything that he's learned in the streets is knowledge and experience that he can use and actually transfer over into the boardroom, because we have seen him do it in a few glimpses. And look, let's not get it twisted. A lot of drug dealers are actually better businessmen than those in suits running big corporations. James St. Patrick proved it. He was a drug dealer first and foremost, but guess what? He could also put on a Tom Ford suit and stand there toe-to-toe with the elite, and he wasn't afraid to take them on. He wasn't afraid to compete with Stern or those who dared to compete with Club Truth. He wasn't afraid to make very shrewd business moves, not with a gun, but very smart moves to take out his competition in the real world of business, and he did so in so many ways. But the question is, how does Tariq fare in the real world when he comes up against competition that doesn't have a gun to his head, but rather screw him over with contracts and papers, just like what happened with his trust fund? How does he fare when he gets into competition down the street that undercuts him? How does he handle the likes of Simon Stern that screw him over and cuts him out of deals? That's the Tariq St. Patrick we've not fully seen. That's the Tariq St. Patrick that will prove whether he's really his father's son. You know, putting on a suit and tie is one thing, because a suit does a lot for an image, Ghost would definitely agree. But what about the man who's wearing the suit? Who's behind Tariq St. Patrick? And what is he really capable of when he steps against the Simon Sterns and the RSJs of this world? So just circling back to Courtney Kemp's comments on this big shift that she had planned after season 5, and how there's going to be a woman in his life that demands whether he chooses the boardroom or the streets. Could that plan be brought forward? And could this be the next chapter after Power Book 2 Ghost? A story with Michael Rainey Jr. as the lead as Tariq St. Patrick after he's finished college, after he's finished dealing with Noma, the Tejadas and Effie. Who knows where Brayden kind of fits into the storyline or other characters, but maybe they start afresh with Tariq St. Patrick as a lead in the real world of business, whether it be in politics, law, or running a legit business like Club Truth. But of course you still got that power twist to it. Before they had the likes of Mary J. Blige and Method Man kind of supplementing the cast, but now I do think Tariq can be the face of the new show, and they can kind of cast around Tariq. There are so many different storylines they could tap into in terms of corruption, politics, corruption at the highest levels in finance, law enforcement, who knows. Like CK mentioned, she did have plans to kind of take it in a new direction. So Courtney Kemp's comments from a few years ago, Michael Rainey Jr. in the office and him saying he knew about the cancellation, I do think something is cooking. Gary Lennon is also working with Lionsgate and Starz to kind of expand the Power franchise. So could this be how they tap into another story arc for Tariq's character? Is this also why Tariq's journey has come full circle, and why he's now standing at Club Truth at the scene of the crime where he shot Ghost? Drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section, and as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.